Hello, everyone, and welcome to another webinar from Exadel about Tiggzi. My name is Charley Cowens. I'm a content manager, among many things, at Exadel. I'm here with Francisco Kattan, who's our VP of Marketing. He focuses a lot on Tiggzi, though. What we're going to do here is this is the inauguration of our series where every month we're going to present an intro to Tiggzi because so many new users come on. We figured it makes more sense to have two tracks, one of the that's more introductory as people come in, and then more advanced topics as for people who have already used Tiggzi. The basic ground rules for this webinar is we are going to go for an hour, or we're going to end at noon Pacific time. Let me put it that way. What we'll do is, if you look in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, there should be a question panel. That's part of the GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar interface. And in there, we'll have our Q&A at the end of the presentation, but you can type questions in at any time as we go along. One thing to keep in mind, too, is that this whole webinar is being recorded, and we'll post it on YouTube and also through GoToMeeting. So if you have to leave or if you want to pass on this information to a colleague, you should realize that there will be a recording available, and the link will be in the follow-up email that goes out after the webinar to all the registrants, and including the attendees, of course. So what I'm going to do is move along here. Here's our plan. What we're going to do is I'm going to tell you a very little amount about Exadel. You're mostly here to learn about Tiggzi, so let's focus on that. Then I'm going to tell you a brief intro to Tiggzi, just in terms of one slide. But of course, this whole webinar is an intro to Tiggzi, so I'm not going to dwell on that because that's what Francisco will be telling you about. So we'll do his demo, and we try and budget for about 10 minutes at the end for Q&A. And at the end, there'll be a slide when we're doing Q&A that has all the contact information you need. So if for some reason we can't get to your question, just send it to Francisco. Will have his email up. There's the support forum and all these other ways in order to get your questions answered. So first, here's briefly about Exadel. We're a global software engineering company. We do enterprise mobile application development, and you can see the other things. And Tiggzi is sort of an outgrowth of our activities in terms of engagements for mobile projects that we've worked on before. So we decided to roll a lot of that experience together into a product, and that's how Tiggzi was born. So let's, here's a slide that just shows you the global part. So as you can see, we're global. And here's just a collection of some of our clients that we've worked with. And so we put them all together in this slide that has all these logos. But the main takeaway from this is we're an enterprise development company. All right, enough about Exadel. So Tiggzi. So just to kick off things, Tiggzi, this is a great graphic because it shows you pretty much how Tiggzi works. You build an interface using an app builder, and you combine HTML5, JavaScript, CSS, and you leverage jQuery Mobile. That's what we use for a lot of our components, and PhoneGap, which gives us a lot of the cross-platform kind of power that we need to use. And also it allows, for accessing device features in a device-independent way. And then you combine that interface with services. Those can be through REST APIs that are out there in the world, or we also provide some back-end services for our users so that, for some common things like database, push, or server-side code, you're able to keep within Tiggzi if you want. But we don't force you. I mean, you can use outside database services, outside push services. You can use anything you want. We're just here to combine those two things together and make your life easier. And at the end, you see we produce a mobile app. That's the whole goal, and we're very focused on being able to allow you to produce these things, the apps for a lot of different platforms really easily. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Francisco. He's going to drill down more into exactly what Tiggzi is about. Take it away, Francisco.
Thanks, Charlie. First of all, do you want to say anything about the promo code?
Oh, the promo code. I forgot the most important thing. I'm sorry. At the end, we will have a promo code as one of the second-to-last slides, that will allow you to get 2 months free of the professional plan for Tiggzi. So sorry I forgot about that.
The most important part.
I know.
Thanks, Charlie. So as Charlie indicated, this is intended to be an overview of Tiggzi. And so we are going to cover as many features as possible, but at a very high level. We're also planning, as Charlie indicated, a more in-depth series of webinars. Some of them are already available in our YouTube channel, recorded by Max Katz, our lead evangelist, but also keep an eye on our schedule for upcoming webinars where we will drill down in some of these features in more detail. So the plan for today is to build a very simple app, right? How you build your first app. But we're also going to talk about some of the key features in Tiggzi, such as integrating with REST APIs to integrate with third-party cloud services. We're also going to show you how you might integrate with some of the native device capabilities using PhoneGap or Apache Cordova. And then we'll show you our catalog of pre-built plugins that have already been created for you to even more easily integrate with third-party services. We'll touch a bit on the Tiggzi backend services. As Charlie indicated, this is a set of backend services such as a cloud database and push notification services that are already pre-integrated with Tiggzi. Tell you a little bit about how you deploy your app, and then show you how you might collaborate with other team members. So let's go ahead and get started. And this is the main interface for the product. You just point your browser to our, Tiggzi.com and then log on. I have already logged in. You can see here on the left a number of applications that I have already created. Here I have access to my folder as well as folders from other people in my team that have shared their applications with me. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new app. I'm just going to call it A8 for now, very creative name. And at this point, the development environment, which is fully web-based, is loading. It's all HTML5 based, JavaScript, CSS. So there is no need for you to download any SDKs or install anything on your PC. From anywhere, you can have access to your projects and develop. So this is the start screen. It shows you an overview of the process for developing apps. We'll first build the UI of the app. Typically, we'll add some events, as well as optionally, you can write JavaScript to customize your application further. And then we can integrate with backend services, either third-party backend services through REST APIs, or some of the pre-built and pre-integrated backend services that we offer, such as Push or our cloud database. And then you can deploy your app as a hybrid or native app on Android, iOS, or Windows, or as a mobile web app via HTML5. Okay? And then there's all kinds of self-learning resources available on this page as well. So we have lots of tutorials that you can go through with step-by-step instructions, a series of self-learning videos, documentations, and more. So let's go ahead and get started with our first app. And I'm just going to bring up the start screen. And as you'll see, there's a set of components, mostly jQuery mobile components, that you can use on your application. And then obviously the workspace where we're going to be creating the user interface for the app. And then a panel for properties where you get to customize some of your components. So the plan for today is I'm going to build a simple app that enables you to keep track of sports headlines from ESPN. I happen to have access to the ESPN API. And by the way, these APIs are public, so you can go in and log on and create your own key. and get access to these APIs yourselves. I've already done that. You can just go to developer.espn.com. These are APIs that are hosted by our partner Mashery, and I'm going to go into the sports API, and you'll see the documentation available, including the URLs for accessing the content. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give it a title. How about like something like My Sports App, and I'm going to drag a few components onto the page. And so I'm going to drag a grid component that is going to allow me to lay out my page. And then I happen to know that this API is going to return a few things that I'm interested in showing to my users. There's going to be a headline. Most of the stories will also have an image. And so we'll add an image component. We're going to add another label component to have the actual story or description. And then I know that there is usually a link that comes back as well in case someone wants to drill down and read more on the ESPN website. Okay. And because this is the heading, I might make this a little bit bigger. Okay. And I'm essentially done creating the user interface for this very simple app. And what I can do now is I can test it in the browser. This is essentially an HTML5 app. I'm going to go ahead and make it public. And if you guys have access to an app that with like a QR reader, you'll be able to run this as well as I go along on your own phone. I'm also going to see if I can publish this URL in case you don't have a QR code reader. You can just follow along. I'm going to publish this URL in the chat window. But better if you have a QR code reader. I'll show you again that that code so that you can read and follow along on your phone. So I'm testing the app, and you can see it doesn't do very much. It just shows the user interface that I created, but it is a complete app. You know, it shows the two labels, the picture, the link. And I'm going to wait just a couple minutes to give you a chance to read that QR code. And if maybe some of you can reply via the chat that you have already captured the code, I'll just wait a minute to give you a chance to do that. Or if you don't have a QR code reader, just go ahead and click on that link. Okay, I see a couple of you have already captured it. So what I'm going to do now is actually build the rest of the app. I'm going to integrate it to that API I showed you before. And so I come back to my app, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a service to this page. And I have a choice of device APIs or REST APIs. I'm going to do a REST API. I'm going to name it ESPN, about something like that. Okay. I create the service, and now I have to define the service. It's asking me for a URL. So I go back to my ESPN documentation. I'm just going to copy it across. And then I'm just going to do a get. There's other methods supported, of course. And I happen to know this is going to return JSON. Then I need to define my request parameters. I happen to know that this requires just an API key. So I'm going to add that request parameter. And I'm going to copy paste the API key from the ESPN website. So you'll need to go on and register yourself to get that key. And now I am done creating the request parameters. I'm going to create now the response parameters. So I have two options. I can create this from scratch by typing it in, but better yet, I'm just going to test. We have this capability to test APIs live against the actual service. It's always a good idea to test to make sure that you've got the URL and the request parameters and the key are correct. As you can see, the test is successful, and you can see the JSON that came back. So what's nice about this now is I can automatically create the service response, so I don't have to do it by hand. Okay, so it's been created successfully. I can go back to my response, and you can see that I've got all of these fields back, including an array of headlines with all this information. Okay, so I've got my headline, I've got keywords, I got some links that I'm going to need, and I got some images as well, which is pretty cool. Essentially, our platform virtually self-learns the API, so you don't have to type it from scratch. So I go back to my page, and I'm just going to add that service to the page. And now I'm going to map the service to my page. Essentially, I'm binding the service that I just created to this particular page. And so my request is already configured with my key. And then I get to map the result that comes back, which is essentially all of these headlines. And so I'm going to need the headline. I'm going to map it to my first label. I'm also going to need this description. I'm going to map it to my second label. And I need a couple more things. I'm going to grab this mobile link, and I'm going to map it to my link on the page. Okay. And then there's also an image. Some of the stories actually return an image. And so I'm going to map the image. So I'm almost done here, but I happen to know that this is an array. It's a collection of headlines that's going to come back. And so in order to get a looping effect, I'm going to map the headlines collection, if you will, to my grid. Okay? So I am almost done, except that I need to invoke the service. So I go to my page, and I say that whenever this page is loaded, I'm going to add an event. This is my page. Up on the load event, I'm going to invoke the service. And that's the name of the service. There's no other service on this page. And I'm going to add it. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to save it. And I'm going to run it. And there you go. I just went out to the ESPN service, and I retrieved these are live headlines. You can also refresh your app if you have. You don't need to reopen the browser. Just refresh it on your phone or on your PC, and you'll be able to run this app as well yourself. I'm going to wait a minute to see if some of you had a chance to. If you can reply via the chat window, to see if you had a chance to run the app. As you can see, there's the headline, the picture, the story. I can click on read more, and it takes me to the ESPN website. In this case, there's a video. Okay, and I'm running the app. So we've shown you now how you integrate a RESTful API from a third-party service. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you how you integrate with device capability. And for the purposes of this demo, I'll show you how you might integrate the geolocation API. So first of all, we support any API that PhoneGap or Apache Cordova supports. So I'm just showing you this page. So accelerometer, camera, compass, contacts, etc., all of those are supported. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new page, and I'm going to call it My Map, something creative like that. And I'm going to go into my project settings and make sure that that is my new start page. And then under My Map, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a label. I'm going to add a button. How about that? I'm going to add a button component, and I have a Google Map component over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to label this, how about like, where am I? Something creative like that. The map component has a default address, San Francisco. I'm just going to change it just for the heck of it to New York. I'm going to say show marker, and I'm just going to change his name so it's a lot easier to remember. And it also has latitude and longitude components, as you can see. And how about if we change also the name of the page to something more creative? Something like that. Okay, so that is the UI. And then what I need to do is I can actually run this now. But again, it's not going to show my location. It's just going to show the default location, which is New York. You can probably refresh your own page, either on your phone or on your PC, and you'll get the same thing. You know, if I click on where I am, nothing happens, obviously, not yet. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the location API to this page. And so I'm going to go add, instead of service, I'm going to go add device. And here are some of the device APIs that are available via this menu. Although, as I mentioned before, all of the PhoneGap APIs are supported. So I'm just going to choose geolocation, create service. Okay. And it's already created for me. So it's, you know, the request parameters are already configured with their default parameters, response, etc. Okay. And so it's all done now. I need to go to my page and add the service. And one thing I need to do is I need to map the fields to my actual map. So my map has latitude and longitude fields. So I'm going to map them. And then something else I need to do, because this is just how the Google Maps component works, is I need to refresh the map whenever this service executes. And so I'm just going to add a little bit of JavaScript, nothing too fancy. And this will give me an opportunity to show you that you can also add JavaScript to customize your application. So we have a full visual builder, but you can also add JavaScript to make it more customizable. So I'm just going to create a variable called map, and I'm going to assign it to the map itself, which is, you know, accessing it through the Tiggzi API. And I'm going to now change that default address to null. Remember, there was the default address that I set to New York. I'm going to set it to null. This is just how the Google Maps work. And then I'm going to refresh the map, okay, with the new latitude and longitude that came back from the service. And then I add the event. Okay. And now the last thing I need to do is I need to actually invoke the service. So whenever someone clicks on this button, you see the button is already selected. And then on the click event for this button, I want to invoke that geolocation service. Okay. So at this point, I think I've got everything I need. So let's save it just for good measure and give it a try. Something didn't quite work. Let's see. Let me check very quickly. Geolocation service, my map. We check the service. Okay, so we are, oh, save it. Maybe that was the issue. Let's see. Okay, it's, I must have done something wrong. Let's give it another try. You can try it on your phones as well. Okay. All right. Anyway, that's how you add the location service. Let's, what I wanted to show you also is the database capability that we have. So if you click on backend services, do it again.
Murphy's Law at work.
What?
Murphy's Law.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, right here, came up in a new screen. Okay, very good. So I'm going to create, so you can see there is, we have pre-integrated cloud database service as well as push notifications. I'll show you building a quick database. So I'm just going to call it A8 just to be creative. And you can see you get all of the, you get your key, you get a database ID. You now get to create a collection of, such as tables for your database. So I'm going to create a new collection. And I'm going to just say customer table. How about that? Something like that. And now I'm just going to add a couple of columns. How about name? And how about something like zip code, something like that. Okay. And I will add a couple rows. So how about John, and he lives in zip code 12345. And I will add another row. How about Peter, and he lives on this zip code. And I'm done, let's say, creating this table. So if I go back to my app, I can now create a new service, a new database service. And here I can see my new database that I created. And I can import, there's a set of user management services that are default with every table. But here's also the customer table I created. And I'm just going to import one of the services to be able to list these components. Okay? And so you can see here that the customer table list service is already imported. I can go ahead and create a new page now to show you the database feature. And how about something like my database, create page, and I'm going to go ahead and make that my new start page. Okay. And again, change the name, my database app. How about something like that? And I'm going to add a grid component with just one row and two columns. And remember, I have a name and I have a zip code. Okay, so that is the user interface. Very, very simple app, just to show you how to how to use our database service. And then we go into the data, and we're going to add this service to the page. And I'm going to again map the components that come back. So here's the name and the zip code. This is what I just created. And I'm going to add this to the labels in my page. So the name goes to the first label, the zip code goes to the next label, and again, because this is a collection of records in my customer database, I'm going to map the array itself to the grid. And then the last thing I need to do is, of course, I need to invoke the service. So when this page loads, when my database page loads, again, right, I'm going to invoke the service, and the service is already pre-selected, and I'm going to add it to my page. So at this point, I believe I can just run, and I'm going to save it again for good measure, and let's give it a try. And there it is. So this is my database app, very simple app with two records, John and Peter. Now, again, you should be able to refresh the page on your own phone if you were able to capture that QR code, or run it in the browser within your PC using that URL that I sent earlier. Okay. So one other feature I wanted to show you. You see how we created a service, the ESPN service. We have a number of pre-built services in our catalog. So rather than us creating a whole new service, which even though it's pretty simple, you can see that the interface is self-learning and so forth, we have a pretty extensive catalog of pre-built API plugins. And I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to go create new. Rather than service, I'm going to say from plugin. So create new from plugin. And here you can see the catalog. So we have plugins for Salesforce, Best Buy, AT&T, SendGrid, Twilio. There's lots and lots of pre-built API connectors. Now, what's nice about this is that this is a community-built catalog. You can create your own plugins. You can either keep them private to yourself and your team, or you can publish them through us in the catalog for others to use. So I'm going to go ahead and import this Espn Headlines Api, which includes not only a set of services, but also a complete sample app that has already been built against these against the service. So I'm going to go ahead and import it now. And there you go. And there's just a quick dialogue to remind you that you need to, of course, put in your own API key. And then it gives you the option to select a new start page, which in this case I want the ESPN select sport page. I apply my settings. And it gives me the option to, again, paste in my key from ESPN. And I think that's it. I should be able now to, you can see all of these services were imported. So there is all of these services, right? You can take a quick look. There's kind of a lot of stuff there, all done for you. As well as a sample app with a number of pages. So you can see ESPN leagues, ESPN Select Sport, ESPN Headlines, ESPN Headline Details. All of this has already been created. So let's go ahead and run this app. I'm going to save it again. And again, you should be able to do this on your own as well. And the app is now loading. And did I not invoke the service? Let me check. Huh. Okay. For whatever reason, the app is not loading. So I must have made some kind of a mistake. But that's essentially how you do it. Let me now cover some of the other topics.
You may have posted the wrong key into the... You were setting it up?
Let's try that. So this is my ESPN key. Copy. And I go into ESPN settings. Oh, I see. I think you're right. You're right. Yep. There is a default text. Thank you very much. Someone who's watching very carefully.
A couple of people
noticed that, yes. Thank you very much. So we'll save it again. And we're going to retest the app. So there is a, there we go. So there's some default text in the field where I get to enter the key. I need to remember to erase when you paste your key. So thank you very much for those of you alert and watching. And now I get to run the app. So it's basketball season, of course, so let's see what's going on. And NCAA basketball, I get to choose the league. And then the headlines, right? So I can pick any headline I want. And see how Kevin Ware is doing after his injury.
Ooh, that looks painful.
Yeah.
I saw that.
And then I can click on the link as before. Yeah, this was painful to watch over the weekend, of course. So, so that's you know, the plugin capability. What I wanted to do now is show you some of the other features. So you've done creating the app. Now what, right? So what you want to do next is you want to deploy your app, and you do that by exporting it. So you click on export, and you have a choice of binaries. You can export to iOS. You can export to an iOS or Android binary. You can also export to a Visual Studio project for Windows Phone. We also support Windows 8. And you can support, we also support HTML5, essentially, for mobile web applications. Notice here this Tiggzi plugin option. This is where you can create your own plugin. So you create a service or a complete app or whatever you want, some kind of reusable module. And you click here to create your plugin. For now, I'm just going to create an APK for Android. And we have a cloud-based builder that is going to create the binary. And so it takes a few seconds, but essentially it's going to download the app and even give you a QR code in case you want to more easily install your app. So if you have a QR code reader on an Android app, you may want to have it ready. We'll come back to this screen because it does take a few seconds. But some of the other capabilities are you can. I'm going to go back to my project list, and I can share. There's a lot of collaboration capabilities within the product, so I can share my app with someone, such as, for example, Max. Okay, and now I've invited Max. He's now able to open that app, and I can see that my APK is ready. So I'm going to, I can save it if I want, right? Or better yet, first of all, before I do that, let me go ahead and remove. So you can invite folks to share your applications, or you can take it away. Okay, so Max no longer has access to this project. And this is the QR code I was talking about. So we're able to download the app as a binary to my own PC, or very conveniently, you can just point your QR code reader to this page and very easily install this Android app on your phone. Okay, so I'll give you a second in case you want to do that. And let's see, what else did I want to show you? So we also offer hosting for HTML5 apps. And so I can actually host this app on that Tiggzi cloud with either, first, it's telling me this is a native app, so I cannot host it. Or I can change the type and make it a mobile web app. And then it's going to allow me to host it. And I can, offer my own domain, or I can just go, create a name for this app, and then it will be published in the Tiggzi cloud. This is free hosting that we provide, so you can take advantage of that for deploying your mobile web apps. Okay. Anything else that I missed, Charlie?
Yeah, there's always more stuff to cover. I mean,
yeah.
You did the collaboration. That's always something to include.
Yeah. Oh, here I wanted to show you. So if you have a team, you can buy multiple licenses, and then you can assign your own licenses to other folks. So again, I can give a license to Max. Okay. And I can take it away. And I can also share my whole folder. So I can go into the Share tab, and I can again invite a user to share my entire folder, so he or she will have access to all of my apps. So it's a very cool ability to collaborate. Again, because the platform is completely cloud-based, it makes it so much simpler to collaborate. It's kind of like Google Docs. Okay, so I think
we're ready. Okay, so let's show the promo code.
Oh, very good point. So let's go back to
the
slides. Okay, and
there. We'd like part of what I forgot to originally talk about at the beginning was the promo code. This is for 2 months of the professional plan. This should give you everything you need. It's unlimited projects, and there's no real limit. I think it's up to 50 projects. Yeah, so it's effectively unlimited. But for 2 months, to give you a taste of Tiggzi and a real chance to try it out. So there's the promo code, and then we'll leave that up while we do the questions, and then in a minute we'll switch to the contact slide. So let's do a question with that still up. First of all, I'd like to point out that this is an introductory kind of webinar. We wanted to do 2 tracks where we have our developer evangelist, Max Katz, who does the more advanced kind of track. So we may not, so the intention of this is to be basic. So we're trying to give you a little bit of everything that's involved in Tiggzi. And if for more advanced things, there's Max is working on some webinars. So let's try and go through some of these questions. And there's someone who wants to know about editing the source code. There's, I think, in the UI builder.
Yes.
What are our source code editing capabilities for?
Yeah, certainly. You can edit. There's two parts to this question. One is you can certainly add JavaScript and edit your own JavaScript code, as I mentioned before. There's a number of places within the app builder where you can add JavaScript. There's also JavaScript. Let me see. Can I share that?
You're sharing something else. Look at the.
I'm not sure why that is. Okay, I wanted to share my browser again. Oh, I see. I get to minimize this guy.
But I don't think your screen is actually showing right now.
Okay.
I want to make sure that you have that.
I should be sharing my screen. I'm not sure why. In any case, there are two parts to this question. One is the JavaScript that you add yourself, and then there's the JavaScript that we automatically create when you do the drag and drop. Today, we have a tab that I was going to show you where you can actually view the JavaScript. In the future, we're going to allow you to edit the code. If you need to edit that code, you can very easily export and then edit the code yourself. So certainly that is possible as well.
All right. Let's see. There's a question in here about about the more properties. In the properties panel, there's something that keeps occurring, which is called more properties. What in general is that about?
So every component has a set of common properties and then also a set of their own properties. And so if you click on more properties, then you get to see additional properties that are not shown, that don't fit, let's say, in the initial dialog.
Okay. Here's a question about the database backend. I'm not sure if you can answer it. It's about linking the tables or collections together. Like with relational databases, you have a primary key, foreign key, that kind of deal. Do we have capabilities like that in the database that comes with Tiggzi, the backend?
Not really sure, Sen Lee. Why don't you send me that question via email, and I'll have Max reply to you a bit later.
Oh, okay. And here's a question about marketing the plugins. If you create a plugin, is there a way to sell or lease the rights to others, to monetize it for you?
So there is a way for you to promote the plugin. Talk to me directly via email, and we can talk about what you're trying to do. Generally, what we are trying to do is to make available these plugins to the whole developer community. You can certainly create some of your own private plugins that you do not share with the whole community. You can certainly export them and save them as a zip file, and then make arrangements with whoever you are interested in marketing those components to. But if you want to market them through our catalog and have some kind of a monetization component, please send me an email.
All right. Here's another question. There's all those people who noticed you pasted in the wrong ESPN key.
I wish you had noticed, Charlie.
Here's someone I think this person is clarifying their original question about the plugins, but they'll communicate with you directly. And then we pointed out this is a basic webinar. And here's a question. When an app is exported as an Android binary, is it necessary to have a signing key? Is there anything special like that you need?
For iOS apps, you certainly need to do that. There's a lot more overhead in creating and signing an iOS app. For the Android app, I think it depends on the device that you are loading it on. I think a lot of users enable their Android devices so that they can run untrusted apps. And in that case, the app will run just fine. But in some cases, depending on the privacy configuration or security configuration of their device, the app may need to be signed.
Okay. Here's a question about creating your own UI. Let's say you create the UI in Illustrator or some outside program. Are there facilities for importing a design like that into Tiggzi?
I believe there are, but I'm going to let Max reply to you via email if you can send that to me. There are certainly custom components that you can create, and you can add them to the set of components in the product. So once you open it up, you'll see, and I wish I could show you now, but for some reason I'm not sharing. There is a section called Custom Components, and I believe that is where you can have your own components that you can later reuse within your own application. But send me an email, and I'll have Max get back to you.
Okay. Here's a question about using a lot of jQuery elements in Tiggzi. You know, if you have an app that you're working on, he's asking why, if there's an easy explanation for why the more jQuery elements you have in the screen, the more likely it is how it seems to slow significantly. Is that a problem that you've heard of before, or?
Not really. You know, I think there is, a performance issue. I think with some HTML5 apps that can be optimized. What we find is that devices and the new browsers in devices are getting faster and faster all the time, so that we don't see a significant performance hit over fully native apps. But certainly there is optimization that you can create, and it's one of the questions I mentioned earlier. You can export your app, and then you can edit the JavaScript code to add additional optimization.
Oh, you know, if you wanted to show something on the screen before, it actually was working.
Oh, okay.
So, do you want to go to that yet right now, or let me look for some more questions here?
Yeah, I just wanted to show you, like, you know, there's a question about source code. So if you click on this tab,
there we go.
You basically have access to all of the source code, so you can, you know, at least view it for now.
And also, when you edit,
then you can export it. You know, the future will allow you to edit it, but
right.
For now you can export it and change it.
Yeah, that's one of the basic options with any project. Is just to export it as a bunch of HTML5, JavaScript, and CSS files. Right. And obviously, if it's a full-blown hybrid app, you lose some of that. But
yeah, there's also ability to add JavaScript, as I mentioned. You know, as I showed earlier within an event. But whenever you're mapping components, there's also an option to add JavaScript as well.
That's
for
true.
Additional customization.
Right, and also CSS. So you can adjust you can put CSS coding in, and there are a lot of ways to apply it.
Right, you can see actually the sample app for ESPN that I imported from the catalog actually includes some JavaScript as well.
Oh, okay. Let's see. What about, let's see. Yeah, I think we've run out. There's a question about planned releases for Tiggzi this month.
Yeah.
In the month of April.
Certainly, we are planning an update later this month. So stay tuned. It's quite an exciting release for us. So we hope that you'll be paying attention to our newsletter and our website. We do have a regular cadence of new releases, and because it is a cloud-based platform, you know, you don't have to download anything. You just point your browser to our page, and you'll automatically get all of the updates without having to install anything.
Okay. Yeah. Could you flip back to the slide deck?
Sure.
Because we're coming near the end. I want to make sure people had a chance to then back up to the promo code, give people a chance to. Okay, there. We'll hold it there for a while, and then in about 10 seconds, I'm going to go away from that slide and go to the slide that shows all the contact info. So people who need to send an email can see the email there. Okay, so let's show that. And we're coming near the end. We have about 2 minutes left. So if there are any further questions, also if a question occurs to you later where, you know, our product is only as good as the users who use it, and that way we get to that is through people asking a lot of questions, and we respond to those. So please feel free to one thing that I really like about our support system is, even though it's listed as tiggzi.com/forum, it's actually a get satisfaction forum, which is a lot of people really like using. It's also great because you can see other questions people have asked. So if you really want to get a feel for Tiggzi, I highly recommend clicking on that link that just says support, and that'll take you to our Get Satisfaction board. It's really very useful and you can also, along with posting questions and issues that you have, it's really handy for also proposing new features. Here's an interesting, this will be our last question. This person is asking how we can export one app as all the options. I mean, if you wanted to, as a workflow, if you were producing for all these platforms, is there a single click?
You can certainly do that, but you do it one at a time.
Oh, okay. But we don't have enough people who want to do it. I guess no one would want to do it all the options.
I guess we could. That's actually a good, good piece of feedback for us. But it doesn't take that long. So you can kick off the binary for Android and then come back to the project and kick off the binary export for iOS and so forth in the meantime.
Okay. Well, I think we should kind of wrap up now. So thanks to all of you for coming to our webinar. We really appreciate people. I mean, everyone's really busy, so we appreciate it when people take time out of their day to attend our webinars. There'll be a follow-up email with links to the recordings, how they'll be posted, and feel free to use any of those methods of contact, or just get started now with Tiggzi. That's the best way to figure it out. And let's start shutting things down.